Another episode was born of pure imagination, a dream. And dreams about Mataji can be narrated by many of us. Mine is a gift to those who are dreamers like myself. I dreamt I was strolling through a rural lane. The path moved in a zigzag manner, and beautiful flowers and green creepers were visible on both sides of the fences. There were gardens and villas on either side. Occasionally there would be an isolated cottage. I reached a cottage that was visible from the lane. I slowed down my pace and stood at the garden gate and observed that Mataji could be seen on the veranda of the cottage. When I saw her, I entered the gate and seemed to have reached my destination. When I approached Mataji, I was startled to find that she had a baby on her lap. What was this? There was no one else whom I could ask. I looked at Mataji. She glanced at me, but immediately was all attention to the child. How was the infant related to Ma? What an odd question to ask, for are we not all her children? But the question persisted in my mind in the dream, and I was no doubt her son, but in what sense was the baby hers? What did it matter if he happened to be the physical son of the mother? So I argued in the dream. Mataji was all the time fondling the baby, and I thought to myself to put the question in a suitable form, and asked, how does the baby get his nourishment? Mataji smiled. Baby does not like milk from outside. I have to suckle him. I felt compassion for Mataji, and I began to scrutinize her appearance. She looked considerably reduced, and her collarbones were visible. Surely the child was a demon who was sucking her blood and living on it, and I began to detest the child. The baby, too, detested me, perhaps. Lying on Mataji's lap, he began to stamp his feet on the ground. Was he not kicking at me? So I thought. Suddenly, my feelings changed in my dream. He was, after all, Mataji's own son. If I could love her so much, could I not love her child as well? I looked at the child and tried to feel love for him. Mataji saw my affectionate looks and said, would you like to take the baby on your lap? Realizing that Mataji might get some relief, I at once sat down and extended my arms. Mataji placed the child on my lap, and I felt delighted. I began to ask myself, how could I atone for my earlier resentment towards the baby? I had thought of him as a demon. I thought that he wanted to kick me. So if I love him, I must touch him affectionately. I thus touched his right foot, and in the inmost depths of my heart tried to feel that I really loved him. But now something occurred that can happen only in a dream. His foot dropped out as if it were an artificial one, and along with it the entire leg came out, stuck to my hand, and dragged my hand towards my own right leg. There the child's limb vanished. I was extremely upset, and quickly placed my fingers on the baby's left foot, and the same thing happened. The left foot merged into my own in a similar manner, his right arm and then left, and afterwards all other parts of his tiny body, which I was quick in grasping one after another, thinking of them to be separate tangible entities. And this proved deceptive in the same way, and so the wee form merged into my body, limb by limb, one part after another. Mataji was looking at me, engaging my quick movements and my growing bewilderment. I also fixed my gaze on her, saying, Mataji, what is this? This baby your own baby? Is it my own self? Am I this child who looks so ugly and is fond of kicking others and always sucking your lifeblood out of you? Do tell me, is it myself? Mataji, please tell me. I looked staggered. My whole body was pulsating with excitement. Mataji laughed in her own sweet way. Her peals of laughter were so thrilling and prolonged that they entered into the very marrow of my being. my anxious state, my petty self, in short, my startling dream, all disappeared in the twinkling of an eye. I was wide awake. It was almost morning, but though no more sleeping, I could still hear Ma's laughter ringing in my ears, as if echoing through my room, and ultimately finding its way to the world abroad, to mingle with the horizon. It was Mataji who transcended my all and yet left me full. One chapter of my dream life was over. Jai Ma. To conclude, in the spring of 1945, Vasanti Puja, the worship of the goddess Durga in spring, was being celebrated in the Varanasi ashram in Mataji's presence. I had also gone there. I passed through the courtyard where people had assembled in groups. I listened to their conversation. Someone was saying, "If Mataji could appear in the form of Sri Krishna, I would accept her without hesitation. You see, I regard Sri Krishna as the complete manifestation of God." I could not hold my tongue. "Brother," I said, "would you be able to recognize Sri Krishna if he appeared before you in physical form? Have you ever seen him?" The man did not retort, but he looked extremely discomforted and disturbed. I also fretted and fumed, but preferred to move off. I went upstairs where Mataji was walking up and down the veranda overlooking a part of the Ganges. Some men and women were watching her from a distance, and I forgot myself. I reached her and wanted to walk a few steps with her, but I could not walk without talking. I said, "Mataji, why do I like to speak of you so often and so vehemently and bluntly?" Mataji was listening as I continued. "When I am garrulous, I feel puffed up with pride. When words fail, depression sets in. I suffer both ways. What shall I do?" Mataji said, "What do you want me to do?" And I replied, "Mataji, grant me one favor. Make me speechless about you. I think I should not speak of you. All my prattle is an insult to you. It is already oppressing me." I felt relieved when I laid bare my troubled heart before her. It was now her turn to speak. The idol of all adoring hearts at last opened her lips and said, "Recognizing me as your daughter, you may say what you think. No harm will touch you. Do you understand?" I know her to be my mother and myself, her son. Out of this devotion, someday the real spirit of service may be vouchsafed to me, and then the relationship would be reversed. She would become the daughter, and I, as she usually calls me, the father. I am waiting for that day of service to dawn in my life. "They also serve who stand and wait," Ma said. Jai Ma. Words of Ma. How much karma from former births remain yet to be worked out? Just as when, for example, someone has ruined his digestion by indulging in excessive and unrest eating, even though he later adopts a frugal and well-regulated diet, the results of these wise measures will not be noticeable straight away. Thus, whatever be the nature of one's actions at the time, one also has simultaneously to enjoy and suffer the accumulated consequences of one's previous conduct. In God's creation, there is perfect justice. Generally speaking, man is born into this world in order to reap the pleasant results of his good deeds, as well as the outcome of his wrongdoing. What about the consequences of impropriety or injustice he commits at the present time? He will, of course, have to endure them. Man enjoys the fruits of his accumulated former good works. but he will also have to suffer the effects of his evil deeds. The Almighty's will is being fulfilled. Man must foster the desire to perform right actions, and even the impossible becomes possible by God's will. Let his lotus feet be your sole refuge. While one is guided by reasons, there is always the possibility of straying from the right course. So long as one has not realized that he, the Lord, and he alone, is manifest in all modes of being, in all forms and in the formless, single-mindedness and unswerving faith are indispensable. Such one-pointed devotion must have, as the sole aim, the revelation of the Beloved. Living among your people in a spirit of service will be very helpful to everybody. Throughout the 24 hours of each day, abide in the awareness of the presence of God. Then only can there be hope of realization. Who can foresee at what moment the Lord may choose to reveal himself? This is why one must be kept ever wide awake in the truth.